Hey, welcome everyone to another week of UTS Startups Confessions. I'm not usually here, but you usually are. Except this week, you're in the hot seat.
Yeah, this seat sucks.
Yeah. You don't like the other seat either.
No, respect to everyone that sat in this seat. It's a lot harder than that seat.
But what we're going to do, we've got a great crowd of lovely people here from our community, from UTS. So let's get a big round of applause for our Director of Entrepreneurship at UTS, Murray. It's going to be exciting asking you some questions for a change.
Cool.
I should introduce myself. I'm Dave. Many of you know me. Some of you don't. I also work here at UTS. This is also, I need to be nice to Murray because he sort of pays my bills. So I can't be too harsh with the questions. However, what we're going to do this week, which is super cool, we're going to ask the audience to get involved while we're live. I mean, what could go wrong? Yeah, with that. But okay, so just to prime you all, to kick us off first, Murray, you are the Director of Entrepreneurship at UTS, which is very exciting. But what does that mean? What is entrepreneurship to you? Because I mean, everyone's got their own definition, right?
Yeah, and Macquarie, if you're watching, I want you to change your definition. I'm pleased they took out the hyphen in the word startup in the Australian Macquarie dictionary, and that was fantastic. But the entrepreneur definition needs to be fixed as well. Because to me, entrepreneurship is deciding what you work on for yourself instead of being told what to work on for someone else. And Absolutely. That's it. There's a self-determination thing around, I want to do this and I want to do it for me. Decide how I work, where I work, the schedule I work on things that excite me, blah, blah, blah. Like I'll save the reasons for later, but It's about that for me.
Beautiful. I mean, that's a very academic sounding definition. So thank you for that. But which brings me to a good question. Murray, you always ask people when they come on this sort of series to talk a little bit about themselves, who they were before they started. So can we just dive right in all the way back to Northwest Sydney, young Murray. Where did you first become kind of interested in entrepreneurship?
Okay. I think like most people, I just had entrepreneurial parents. So it's a wonderful kind of influence to have a mother and father that are both entrepreneurs, but as well as that, I was lucky enough that my parents put me into entrepreneurial situations. So for example, they wouldn't give me pocket money, they gave me water tanks and they sat me on the side of the road and said, Muzz, sell water tanks and that's your pocket money. It took me, they had a factory in Penrith and I grew up on the factory floor in Penrith because it was cheaper than daycare or whatever people did back then.
That's real.
And so it's nice to have those kind of experiences that then make you think that's normal. And it's interesting, the Startup Muster data showed a really strong correlation between people with entrepreneurial parents and their own pursuit of entrepreneurship, and there's other data sources all over the place that suggest the same thing. You need to see it to think it's a normal thing, and I was lucky enough to see it.
That is so awesome. And so, okay, that's where it started. You were selling water tanks. But where did the tech kind of part of it come in? Because you're talking about technology-enabled entrepreneurship a lot here. So where did that sort of factor in your early years?
Okay, so basically I've got a brother 10 years older than me, Luke, if you're watching. Hi, Luke. He is an incredible dressage rider, Olympic level. I didn't want to compete with that, so we lived on acreage and I sat indoors on a little computer and wrote code instead. And so that's the short answer to that. I wanted to do my own thing as a little kid, and again, lucky enough to have equipment given to me, so I realized the privileged positions I was in going along. But to live on acreage with a dial-up modem and to have bulletin boards and the communities inside them, and then IRC networks after that, and to run IRC networks and build communities on that kind of influence network, I think is what made me interested in, hey, they're making lots of money. That doesn't seem too hard. Let's figure out how to do that as well.
So we're talking like 486?
Like 386, DX30,
I'm pretty sure no one here knows what that is. So giant, big, blocky computers with Minesweeper?
Yeah.
Okay, and so what were you doing on the computer? Like, what were you doing?
On bulletin boards, so like dialing into them used to do, and that was the thing, and you look at all the files that they have and the kind of how-tos of how to write certain kinds of code. A lot of game development stuff back then, and then the same on IRC networks. Like kids with too much time. I think I like that I was a kid pre-TikTok, pre-Facebook, pre-everything else, because like your attention is hunted to extinction now as a kid.
Yes.
You don't have bored time in front of a computer with nothing to do and sit there trying to figure out how to make something interesting for yourself. And like little code listings in old computer handbooks that you type in by hand to have something to do. I think it's a lot harder now.
So you're talking about coding, literally learning how to code when no one else was really, giving you anything to do.
Yeah.
So what did that become? Like, most kids go get a job at Macca's. So what were you doing?
How much of a confession do we want?
All the way. Yeah.
Right answer up the back. But basically, the internet was a much smaller place back then, and like advertising networks and how to kind of make money out of them, commission networks and how to make money out of them, different commission arrangements with different things and finding ways to market them, and then having checks arrive from weird companies that I had to explain to my mum, because I had to endorse a check and then give it to her to put into a bank account.
So you were getting paper checks in the mail for developing software?
Yeah, from really dodgy sounding companies. Like they didn't have like...
Interesting.
Yeah, but as a 14-year-old, you can get away with a lot more than you can when you're 18 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so hi everyone watching at home, but let's continue.
Yeah, okay, so I guess what we're moving towards here is, did you create any companies? What did you do with all of this newfound knowledge and newly found internet, I guess?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think there's something in entrepreneurship that's like an entrepreneurial escape velocity, where if you're making enough money from doing something, you want to keep doing it. And you see that on all the people that we work with here. As soon as they start to get some traction behind them, then it's like, okay, this is my thing, I want to keep doing this. Or they're working on something they love working on or something else. But I was hitting those points and thinking, okay, this is easy. Why are these suckers going into other kinds of jobs along the way, or more traditional paths as a stupid 16-year-old? So not a valid expression, but I put a bit of software online because I liked working on it. It was an ad blocking thing, so I liked writing kind of network filtering stuff. So I wrote something to block the advertising that I didn't like, put that on. I was a big user of shareware at the time. So shareware was software you put online with a kind of thing to pay. And so I said, okay, I wonder if we have shareware on this, if anyone would pay. And then people started this payments coming in. And it was terrible software as a 16-year-old, but when you have money coming in, you've got a reason to make something better. And so that was the next kind of 14 years of my life.
Wow, so 14 years of the same company, which you started at the age of?
16, yeah. That was...
Wow, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually didn't know that. Very cool. So fast forward through, okay, so this company did well and you were able to hire staff, I guess? And
yeah, we had amazing people around the world. Like,
yeah.
There's small numbers, but really good people. And this, spent 14 years not knowing what I was doing because I was working by myself, working with the customers. We had good feedback loops with the customers. Like we had a forum with like 10,000 people on it that were all kind of beta testers of what we were doing, because when you're developing something for the internet, it has to work across all the websites on the internet. That's a hard thing to do. So the community engagement was good, but my exposure to other entrepreneurs doing similar things was virtually nil. So that was a bit of a bubble up until I found Fishburners. And that was 2012, 2013. And I'm like, oh, wow, there's other people doing this kind of thing. This is cool.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I was going to ask sort of what happened after that company. AdMuncher, you kind of did a few different things, but Fishburners is a huge part of your life, and I guess still is for all of us, like a really important part of the startup ecosystem. So what was your involvement with Fishburners and how did that happen?
I just joined as a member, and again, I was working from home for those 14 years. Everyone else was overseas, and so there was no reason to have an office. But to just be able to continue working alongside other people that were doing kind of tech companies was a beautiful thing. Yeah. My involvement there started to change from, okay, this is nice. I like what we've been able to do in this company and my personal experience in that company. That was like, if I could just like give other people the good luck that I had in that period, I would for every person I meet, because I'm the luckiest person alive. As a 16-year-old to stumble into something that can make money easily doing something I love doing. But then to see 50 other people in fish burners that are trying to find their feet and having similar kind of good experiences, or the start of it, that kind of lit a bit of a fire in me to think, okay, can I do more and more? What are the levers I can pull to get more people doing these kind of companies and coming together and having these kind of wonderful experiences?
Yeah, so you sort of found your people suddenly.
Yeah.
And I guess that started making you want to perpetuate kind of communities like that and the opportunities that you had. So just for everyone at home and here, if you don't know what Fish Burners is, it's kind of a big community of tech-enabled startups, right? Still is running to this day. We have a lot to do with them, really cool stuff happening. But okay, so you ended up sort of working quite closely with Fish Burners and taking it further than just the community that was there when you arrived. Yeah.
It was, they were doing board elections. I got elected to the board. They needed a new CEO in a hurry. Everyone else kind of stepped back. And I said, okay, it's me. And that was interim CEO, but that lasted for 3 years.
Good innings.
Brought in $20-something million in sponsorship, and
wow.
The new Sydney office, the Brisbane one, the Shanghai one with Pete Davison. Thank you, Pete. And thought, okay, that's cool. What comes next after that? But now, I will say it's now 10 years in, Fish Burners as a kind of not-for-profit organisation. Fishburners.org, I highly recommend checking it out. It needs people's support as well.
Yeah, we love them. And okay, so Fish Burners interim CEO for 3 years. Fast forward to now in the year, 2022, you've been here for about bit over 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So how did you land at UTS and what happened to get you here?
So basically everything for the last 10 years has been those kind of things of what's a larger lever I can pull to do more to kind of support entrepreneurs. I love it. I get out of bed every day happy to do the stuff that I'm doing. Like some days are not as good as others, but like every day you feel good about what you achieve.
Yeah.
You know the feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do, it's true.
But to see UTS sitting here and going, okay, we have 45,000 students, we have the resourcing we have the buildings we are the most centrally located university with the best industry engagement of any university in Australia, and the best people doing research of different kinds that are particularly some of the people in the room, Martin Bleemal, I'm looking at you. That appealed to me a lot as something. So there was Westpac in between, I spent some time there. There was Startup Muster as well along the way, so I put money into starting that up for the first couple of years, and then was funded by government and Google for the next 3 years.
Yep.
But that was the biggest survey of startups in Australia. UTS wanted to do something ambitious in this space in terms of supporting innovation and entrepreneurship across all students of UTS, and I thought, okay, that sounds fantastic, let's do that.
Yeah, and should we just break for this, at this point? There's a point to kind of going through all of this history, and we want to know sort of exactly kind of what brought you to this point at UTS Startups to kind of start the program that we have now. But one thing that I've always wanted to ask you on camera is...
Hey, let me say thank you very much, everyone, for watching this stream. You're being very patient and listening to my story, and we'll throw to audience questions, I think. Yeah.
Just before we do, I did a lot of uni assignments and referenced lots of Startup Muster data, so thank you for that. But you don't have a degree.
No, high school dropout. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, because I thought I was making enough back then that was okay. And
Right.
I was, and that was fine. If my kids do it, I'll not be happy, because it's not a good idea. It's your options are narrowed significantly if you do that. You have to make that thing you're doing work or something else. And for me, that was a nice motivator, but it was, probably not what my parents wanted, probably not the best thing in retrospect.
Yeah. So at the time, you felt like it wasn't important enough to pursue. Yet, fast forward, you given basically all of your time and energy to the cause of education.
Yeah.
Like, what changed?
You can get upset about what education is, or you can do something about it. And like in the work that we do out in high schools, going to 50 schools a year, 10,000 year 9 and 10 students a year that we're addressing through UTS Startups at School, or this space at Central with 1 million people a year walking past, 50,000 a week. whatever that is. The opportunity to do something for all the people that are out there and don't have the kind of things that would have kept me engaged in school and excited about what I could be doing, and realizing that it's not a choice. You can do something entrepreneurial while being educated well.
Yep.
And be better on both fronts because of it. That's why I'm here.
I guess now you could say, would you say that university is a place where if you were interested in entrepreneurship, you would be supported and inspired maybe, and supported to actually pursue that and given the tools that you need?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's the thing. When we're out at schools, I think it's what students respond well to. It's what parents definitely respond well to, and teachers. That we're not trying to encourage people to leave school or to do something drastic. We are helping them realize there is a new world that they're operating in, where technology is making it easier to create solutions and distribute those solutions to the world. And in that world where there's basically infinite opportunities and large opportunities, it's up to you to figure out, okay, I can do this or this or this or this or this, and I like doing this, and I'm already putting effort in there, so I'm going to put a bit more effort in and realize I can turn that into something for me, while also being educated in a particular skill set or career path that makes a safe career. Because you live in Sydney and you're an idiot if you put everything on the line. Like, it's not the city to do that.
Yeah, life costs.
Yeah, so having a balance, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And okay, so we're going to throw, as you've suggested, we're going to throw to audience for questions shortly. Whoa. Surely, we also haven't covered like 10 of the questions we had written down. But anyway, just before we do, in terms of UTS Startups, we are, fast forward to now, we've been here for 4 years. We have, around 900 startups have been created. Like, that's worth just pausing on for a second. What did you ever really think that it would go this well, or did you ever really think we'd even have a few hundred startups created? Like,
no.
Right.
This is bananas. Like, in the results that we've had over the last 4 years, in terms of what we've been able to achieve in all the workshops that have been run across all the students, all the kind of different engagements we get in terms of internships and in-subject projects and other kind of engagements with students, all the engagement with the public, the lovely people that are here today, the work out in schools, the progress that we're making in how many people we can address and how many people then decide to start companies, and then how many of those people stick around and help us to create more companies and to help less experienced entrepreneurs. That has all kind of blown me away. This is working so much better than I thought it would.
Yeah. Well,
sorry for saying that, but it's been incredible.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the points we had here was like, let's talk about a few examples of people, but I guess we do this every single week. So you are literally interviewing entrepreneurs that are doing something significant every single week for people to find and hear.
I will say that's why we're here today, or why I'm here today. We had one of our speakers drop out at the last minute.
That's true.
So I pulled the short straw. But every Friday we're doing these interviews where people talk about who they were, what they did, what they got. And if they're someone like you, then you can look at them and go, oh, I can do that as well.
Yeah.
And people keep talking about, wouldn't it be nice if we had better storytelling about entrepreneurs? We have it. We have it every Friday here on the busiest street corner in Sydney, with a pure goal of this helping more people realize what they can do. So we have good stories. We're getting the stories out there. People just have to tune in. And thanks to the location we have, we're getting about 1,000 views across the channels on those videos each week, which is, compare that to a normal event space and what you can achieve there. This is, it's starting to work pretty well.
It is. And I guess just before we shoot for a couple more questions, because we've been talking for a little while, sorry. What is the future of UTS Startups? If 900 startups in 4 years is, over and above what we thought we'd see, what do you think the next few years looks like for us?
Okay, so it comes down to what is the future relevance of universities. Okay, so because for me, and this is not the view of everyone at UTS or everyone at any university, but for me personally, I think the future relevance of universities depends on three things: creating job-ready graduates, creating productivity-boosting research, and creating entrepreneurs that create jobs for those graduates and disseminate innovation from Australia and from around the world for that productivity uplift. So if universities are creating those three things, then I think everyone looks at universities and thinks, yeah, of course they need to exist. Of course I'm going to send my kids there. Of course I'm going to re-engage through my career because I see the surrounding community is enabled by those universities. And that is what they've always done. This is not groundbreaking things to say. But I like that as technology is making smaller companies make more sense, universities are adapting to that and focusing more on the entrepreneurial creation and support in the way that UTS is.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to throw to... Oh yeah, well let's give Murray a big hand. I think that was a lot of information in a really short amount of time, and a lot of inspiration, I would say, as well. And yeah, not just because I work here. I really do enjoy it. Hey, we've got a whole bunch of people with questions. So Leah, you get to pick who's got a question that they want to... I just see Martin looking really, really intently at that mic.
So you've supported many, many startups through Fishburners and then through the early days of UTS Startups. Getting to the next 1,000, how do you scale? Noting that like every startup you've seen is probably unique and has its unique problems at a unique point in time. There isn't a formulaic approach that you can take a cohort like an accelerator through an educational program. How do you scale if every startup is a snowflake? They're all special, just like everyone else.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic question.
Great question.
And so basically, our secret weapon is our community. So the more we lean on the community of wonderful people that we're supporting, so everyone we support free of charge, but we do that in return for them helping us to go out to schools, to speak at things here, to do peer mentoring, do all the things that we ask them to do so that we can then support and inspire more people to start. So as that community grows and grows, at the size it is now, we can create the number of companies we can. If we double the community, I reckon we can double the rate of increase of that community, minus attrition, minus other problems. But I think that will continue to grow over time, and that's what's going to enable us to continue to grow. But that, for me, that's the future kind of end goal. We've gotten to 1,000 or will by the end of this year. So call it 4.5 years. What would it take to do the next 1,000 in less than 4.5 years? It's just a larger community of entrepreneurs that we can tap into that are all motivated to help us, and that's what we have. So I'm confident that's going to continue to accelerate.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Good question.
Great question. Any other questions straight off the bat here? Liam, yeah.
So you've seen so many startups come and go. What are the key qualities you've seen that from the ones that succeed? Like, what are their key components, key personality traits that have made them so successful?
Okay, good question.
Great.
Yeah, this is where it gets hard because it's easy, like if you're an accelerator, you sit back and advertise something attractive and then go through all the applications and say, okay, we like these 10 companies, we're going to support those. If you're a VC, you do a similar thing. You have a referral network, you have a lot of money, and you've got kind of a value proposition that pulls people in. You can select the good companies. If you're an incubator, you're normally asking people to pay, so they have some kind of financials behind them, and you can rely on that a little bit for filtering by itself. For us, we're seeing people literally before they want to be an entrepreneur, and we're seeing, you know, tens of thousands of people a year, and trying to help them understand their kind of potential entrepreneurial pursuit, and then watching them as they start to take their first steps, and good and bad steps, and how they change along the way. I am really, really confident in saying I can't predict who's going to go well. I am 100% confident, because that person that walks in saying, I'm a research kind of background person and my research isn't working out that well, but I think there's some commercial application in this that has no IP associated with it, but I just want to figure out if I can make money from it. And they can't speak well about what they're doing, and they don't have a network in startups or anything that's needed for that company. If that person can go well based on who they have conversations with or what they develop into. But if you look at them on day one, they don't look like what they end up as. Or a lot of the B2B SaaS companies that I've seen over the years, they start out as consulting firms because they need to live in Sydney, so they're coming out of some professional career and they start to consult, pay the bills, they do it for more and more clients, and then they turn that into something where there's a product and they start to scale that up. But on day one, you look at them and think, no, you're just running a consulting company for yourself out of your bedroom. I think that if anything, smart people tend to do better, but smart people talk themselves out of doing it. Hardworking people tend to do better, but it's hard to figure out if that's because they're hardworking or they're just increasing their chances by working harder. So short answer is, I don't think there is an attribute. It's too hard to tell on day one. Thanks.
Very cool. Cool. Oh,
Yeah.
front row, Julie's burning with a question.
There's a lot of magic that happens in UTS startups, and if you're scaling up, projections are happening with your high school kids. How do you foresee assisting them with life skills while sharpening their entrepreneurial pencil?
Okay,
Ooh,
good question.
that is great.
I'll throw to you to answer this in a second. I'll throw in a quick thought first. What if we're not solving for that, but we're solving for the motivation of them to start to figure things out? So you can get a little light bulb moment of, hey, I can do this, and this thing I've been doing on the side, I actually can turn into something that I can do while studying or something else, or I can help to pay for whatever instead of riding for Uber or doing something else. If you light that little fire, do you need to give them the skills? Or are they now living in a world where they have YouTube, they have TikTok, they have everything else, and they can find the information if they have a reason to?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm answering this, but I would tend to agree, and I'd go back to your other response around community. Like, I think I've heard you say before, we're trying to create a place that's sticky and lucky, where you want to stick around because it's fun to be here and there's cool people to hang out with, and that's the reason why a lot of people keep showing up every day. But lucky in that, you know, luck is, well, it's lucky, but also you can be luckier maybe if the conditions are right. Like if you keep finding, sort of running into people around the place, or, you know, finding that certain people have the same interests as you or want to pursue something together. And I think with high school students, we're thinking about ways that we can bring them together in that way, whether it's in person or online or different ways. And I don't think it's up to us to help people figure out how to live their lives, but I do think there's a way for us to be able to add some of these elements that have worked for the community here at university for high school students, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sticky and lucky didn't make it into the marketing collateral.
It's internal speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we've probably got time for one more question before we switch off the stream, just so that people can, you know, stretch their legs and go to the bathroom. We have a staff question. Oh, okay, we've got two more. We've got time for two. Go ahead.
Just a short question.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways you support the entrepreneurs? You know, some of the main ways. The
Great
startup.
question.
Great question. Okay. When you're solving for 490 startups that we're supporting at the moment, it's very hard to give them one thing that applies to every single company, and I think it's dangerous to try to do that as well. So what we try to do is provide them with opportunities to learn from the people that they want to become. So that is like a core element of what we do in the peer mentoring that we have and that we're really, really focused on at the moment. I want those connections being made so that you're, as a new entrepreneur coming in, working in a particular vertical with a particular focus, able to connect with a lot of other people that are doing similar things already and are further down the track that you can learn from. I don't want to give anyone advice, and I don't think we as a group should be doing that either, but we should be creating the conditions where that can happen. And we help that happen through 250 desks of free space that we have that's designed to bring people together, and we're optimizing for the number of people using space at the same time, which is fun during COVID. The events that we run are all about bringing people into the same room as well and optimizing for collisions between people. Everything we do is just focused on getting you connected to what you need in terms of people to learn from, or external connections, investors, customers, talent, researchers. Talent becomes a big part of what we do because we're a university. So being able to, we had 950 students in internships and in subject projects with startups last year alone.
Yeah.
If you ask a startup, what do you need? They'll say, I need talent, I need customers, I need investors, maybe. We can solve for talent. There's amazing talent across UTS. Customers we can help to connect to as well. Investors, maybe, maybe not. Maybe we can encourage you to do something else.
Yeah. And okay, final question from one of our team, Nicola.
Hi, Murray.
Yeah.
I won't ask my juicy question until we turn off the live, so everyone should come on Friday so you can hear the juicy questions.
Yes.
But Murray, what has been, if you had to pick a high moment at UTS Startups, what would you pick? We're not going to hate you if it was before our time in the team.
Okay, so last question. This will sound like a cop-out, but I mean it. The high point is now. To see UTS over the last 4 years, and particularly the last 2 years, go through what it went through. And the pandemic has been hard on everyone, and obviously harder on some other people than it was on us, much harder. But 600 staff or so that were lost across the university, plus a lot of casual staff, and for them as a university to keep their commitment to inspiring and supporting entrepreneurs in the way that we are here.
Yep.
To say we're going to expand footprint and take over another building a year into what we were doing, which is what we did. We took over the Fishburners building, the old one. To say that space on the corner of Harrison Broadway is the busiest street in Sydney and it's not being used, and all these entrepreneurs are working in private. Can we do something to make that more public? And to see UTS say, yes, we'll do that, and figure out how to do it. To say UTS has wonderful relationships with schools, and all those schools would benefit from seeing entrepreneurs in a way that they don't normally see. And to see that get support from Sam Horden and AJ Bardia, thank you very much if you're watching, that then allowed us to get started and then have more funding come in to turn that into a much larger program that will be expanding across New South Wales soon. More on that soon. Everything is kind of coming together in a way where if I sat there 4 years ago and said, would we be doing this, I wouldn't believe it. So the time is now. This is the best moment in anything we've done. And I am excited for what's coming up next as well. But we can't talk about that yet.
Beautiful.
Come to the Friday sessions, you'll hear more there. But thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Let's get another big thank you for Murray, our awesome director. And hey, we are going to stop it there in terms of our live stream. We are so thankful for you tuning in or watching it wherever you are later on. Your time is super valuable and we appreciate that. We'd really appreciate if you would get involved somehow. So there are plenty of ways that you can. We'd love to see you around the place. Tune in next week where we're going to speak to someone else, one of our awesome entrepreneurs, and find out their secrets and tips. So we'll catch you then.